and welcome to the show, everyone. This is Everything Under the Sun. My name is Ty, and I hope you all are doing well. This quarantine is probably affecting pretty much everyone in the country right now, including people in rural areas, which is kind of where I'm at right now. Um, yeah, I kind of did some posting of just different activities, like outdoor activities like hiking and biking and things like that. And I know that it's that's just, I guess, my personal way of kind of working through this quarantine. I'm fortunate enough to live in an area, again, I think I mentioned this last episode, that it's a lower population. So when I go out, even on normal occasions, it's if I go on a hike in the woods or something, or go to the beach, a lot of times, like, you are probably still within like 50 feet of somebody else. So it's pretty spaced out. It's pretty rural. It's pretty not really high populated. So fortunate enough in that way that I can go out and enjoy like outdoor activities without actually interacting with anyone at all. So that's definitely something. If you have that chance, go out and live life. And the main reasons why I've been posting those things is kind of just to remind people that we we can't lose the very things that give us life, the things that bring us enjoyment and love and happiness and connection. And although we are social distancing right now and kind of isolating ourselves in that way, there are so many other ways that we can enjoy life and still have a very fulfilling time in this moment. And that's doing everything from, if you are in a not very populated area, going out for a hike or something in the woods, or going for a walk, or even taking the long way back home from driving. Like, that's something that you can also do, where it's just like it gives you a little bit more sunshine, it gives you a little bit more, kind of just time being out in some general area. And also, you're not coming into contact with people. And I think that's something that's so big. It's like I want to, you know that people know that, like, it's okay to still live, but also with the very big caveat that there is this deadly virus going around, for people that are either sick or elderly. And of course, we don't want to put ourselves at risk, nor the people that we love. So keep that in mind. If you're in a high dense population, don't go out and start you know uh mingling with people, and going to places that are gonna have you interact with a lot of people, because obviously that's not really helping the situation out more. But open a window, bask in some sunlight that's coming in from your front porch or in your backyard, or just do whatever you can to kind of just stay sane during this time. And I think that's the most important thing: stay sane and stay healthy and stay safe. And that means for you and for the people that you may come into contact with it because you're living with, or may come into contact with because you're going to the grocery store or something. But just keep in mind that like, we are trying to end this as fast as possible. So if you can stay indoors, then go for it, and try to find meaningful things to do, like activities, new skill, learning a new language, I don't know, crafts. Fortunately, the internet's still up, so Pinterest has plenty of ideas of things to do while at home. And fortunately, there are so many, like, social media influencers and things like that that are showing you how to work out from home, or to find meditative practices at home, or to find just like things to do in your spare time. And I think that's really amazing that people are coming together in that way. And that's just kind of what I was speaking about, in that terms of being able to still have connection and meaningful connection in this time. So anyway, I'm gonna leave it at that, because at the end of the day, it's like, we may complain about being bored and stuff like that, but in the 1400s, like, they had stickball and churning butter. I don't know. And stickball isn't like what became the American classic of baseball. It was literally a ball tied to a stick with a cup at the end of it, and your objective was to get the ball in the cup. That's how people had fun. Um, and their sounds of crying and sadness and utter depression is what was their music. So I think we live in a time now where there are plenty of other things to do while we're inside and enjoying the company of friends and family. I mean, well, family, maybe roommates, and uh, time off from work, or whatever it is. But I'm going to stop talking about that, because, yeah. Anyway, I was thinking in this time, because it's going to be very difficult to actually go and connect with other people for guests on the podcast. I was thinking that maybe kind of having like phone guests. I was, yeah, I think that may be a good thing. I've listened to some podcasts where some of the podcasting hosts are in different places, or they interview someone that's in a different place, and it's like a Skype interview, or it's a phone call type of thing, or they're webcamming in from some other location. So I was thinking that maybe I will do something like that, and yeah, if it's something that works out, then that'll work out. I'm not really sure of the sound quality, so um, I will. I don't know. I guess we can try to do a test phone call now and see if that comes across well at all. Uh, yeah, let's try. Let's see. Hope they pick up.
Hello?
Hey, it's Future Ty.
Oh, hey. How's the future treating me?
Not what you expected.
What?
Anyway, I need some help.
Yeah, sure. What do you need help with?
Sound, podcast, recording,
Easy. Sounds easy.
and that's about it.
Great.
Great.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, so I think that may have come across pretty well. So that's kind of going to be what we're going to do. Have some guests, maybe give them a phone call, and do some kind of co-podcasting in that way. So that'll be that. So as far as that goes, I'll keep you posted, like I said, with guests, and if there are any that are upcoming with the show and stuff like that. So uh, topics, send those in if you want to have your topic in the box. There were a few conversations that I had with people that have told me topics that they wanted to have inside the box. Really great stuff. If you see me in person and you bring up a topic to me, I will most likely forget. I'm going to think it's great. I'm going to think it's really amazing, um, and talk to you about it in that moment. But I will probably forget to put it on paper and inside this box. So that's exactly what happened this last time. So there were some new topics. I'm going to have to go back and kind of think about what those topics were, or speak to those people again to get those topics back. But for now, there are topics in the box. We're going to do this as fast as possible because it's already 7 minutes in and haven't even gotten to sex, which is today's topic. My favorite. Okay, so this next one is social media. The next topic for next week is going to be social media, which is something that is abundant in our lives, and probably a little more active now than it has been in some time. So, social media is going to be the next topic, putting on the wall, replacing sex, which is, again, today's topic. And yeah, sex, it's great. And yeah, we're just gonna get right back. We're gonna get right into it because there's time and stuff. So yeah, sex is gonna be the topic for today, and I think it's easy to say that this is something that is obviously very important and very part of all of our lives in many different ways. Whether it's having an abundance of it, not having very much of it, and I'm speaking of sex in the term of intercourse. Not necessarily sex as in gender or sex roles, like gender roles and things like that, or sexual identity, sex identity. Yeah, it's about the sex, the actual act of making sexual sex, and yeah, obviously that's something that's very much part of us, and many of us feel different ways about it, the way that we interact with it. I think overall it's been a pleasurable experience for many people, but I mean, of course, we have our ups and downs with different partners and however we feel with whatever. But I guess the main thing I wanted to kind of speak about in this is like why it's kind of like this idea of why do we have sex? Like why? What's the point of it? It's like we have this idea, and I mean, like there are evolutionists that believe that it's just ingrained, like wired in our DNA, and it's something that was meant to keep us from basically becoming extinct. Kind of the survival of our species, and those that were more able to procreate and wanted to procreate more, their genes got spread and obviously continue to today, or whatever. But it's a I mean, it still lingers, even though our population, like the human population, is far exceeded any point of, radical extinction if we didn't continue to procreate. Like I think we have overpopulation at this point, and so it's like what is this drive that we have that seems to pervade something that's like outside of these evolutionary standards, like in some kind of way, like it goes deeper. I mean, like maybe that drive is very intrinsically ingrained within us, but it's ingrained because of that. Well, evolutionists believe that it's ingrained because of that need for procreation and reproduction and things like that. But again, like we're having sex for pleasure, we're using contraceptives, and if that was something that we've been doing for so long, and we've been outside of that real need to continue to have offspring and stuff like that, then why is it still lingering? And this information from this part is from WebMD. So this is the first time I've actually been on WebMD where it didn't tell me I had cancer and I was gonna die or something. But yeah, so type into sex on WebMD and you will get a not death sentence from that search. But anyway, so they did a study of over 1,500 college students, and they asked them essentially why they had sex, like their attitudes and experiences towards sex, and just basically seeing like why they had sex. And it came out to like four different categories of reasons why they had sex. And again, this is 1,500 college students, so different reasons for having sex. But these categories came to physical, goal-based, emotional, and insecurity. The physical reasons are pleasure, stress relief, exercise, sexual curiosity, or attraction. So you're just attraction to someone, it just feels good. That's the physical part. Goal-based, and that's more to make a baby, to improve social skills, so to become popular. That's not really that cool. I mean, it seems kind of strange that popularity seems that it's intertwined with having sex with someone, and I think that's it seems kind of manipulative in a way, but also like kind of just weird in a mental capacity of like where are you at in believing that will cause you to become more popular, or like what is our society shaping people to feel as though in order to become popular you have to have sex. But anyway, that's not something I particularly agree with. But improve social status, that's something that people do to improve their social status, sleep their way to the top. And it's not in all situations, and but yeah, it's just something that happens, and it's unfortunate because people should be able to increase their status by just their merit alone. But anyway, another goal-based one is to seek revenge, which is something I am all behind. Revenge sex. It's the, it's the no. I don't know if anything good came out of that ever, but I think I've been on the receiving end of the revenge sex, where it's like you know, it's the mistake that it's like I was the mistake. It's like, oh yeah, I'm actually in a relationship. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, no, that's totally fine. No, revenge sex, it's to seek revenge. So that's another thing that college students had said that they had sex for is just seeking revenge. So there's also the emotional aspect of having sex, and that's love and commitment and gratitude. And I put in quotes, "Thanks for having sex. Thanks for the sex." Have you ever been thanked for having sex? I think that's the strangest thing that can ever happen. It's almost as if I feel like I'm missing out on something. It's like, I mean, obviously I did my job and I completed my job. But it's like if you're thanking me for sex and it's like, am I missing something? Then I feel like I'm psyching myself out, thinking like, damn, like was there some part of that sex that I missed that I should be not? Yeah, I don't know. But thanks for the sex. Insecurity is another reason why they stated why they had sex, and uh, they say that boosting self-esteem to keep their partner from looking for other sexual partners. Obviously, like an insecurity in that way, feeling a sense of duty or pressure. So the partner like insists that you have sex, which is also another big, no, because I think that's kind of like that goes into that idea of consent, where it's like, what is true consent? Just because like a person says yes doesn't mean that they're. I mean, I guess that's verbal consent in that way, but it's not. I don't think it's consent in a way that's like from what they really want. If that consent comes out of like, hey, do you want to have sex? And it's like, yeah, that's that's cool. But if it's in this way where it's like they've constantly kept feeling pressured, and like, then that's something that kind of comes from coercion. And I think coercive sex is also something that's like not necessarily truly consenting, but fight me about it. I don't know. But anyway, research suggests that there are like two different types of sex, and not like, again, like not speaking about like sex as in gender, but sex as in just like sex. And those two different types are body centered and person centered. So body centered is more like you just have sex because it feels good. You're just doing it because it feels good in your body, you like it, and you actually have no concern about your partner or the person that you're having sex with and their needs or emotions or anything. It's really just about how you're feeling. And the person centered side is basically the exact opposite, where the sex is more like something that is used to connect with the other person, and it's almost a balance of the emotion and sharing and passion and stuff like that. So that's more person centered, and I think that's something that we kind of have to look into, because there are a lot of times where I think that we get kind of confused in thinking that uh, it's that we're wrong for wanting to have sex in different ways. And of course, like, as you move more towards a serious relationship, that more person centered approach may be the thing. But hey, if you haven't gotten laid in a while and you're just like trying to get laid, and you have someone that you match with and you're talking to on Tinder, and you're like, hey, let's go on a date, and you end up hooking up, and it's just a physical thing or something, I don't know, then let that be that. But it's like, as I think, as you start developing more into like wanting to build on relationships within this sexual experience, I think that's kind of when it comes into play, more of like that person centered type of style. But anyway, we kind of started talking about this like evolutionary basis of sex, but it's like, okay, there's still something more to sex, because if we were to just do it for that, like that simple pleasure of it, where it's like, okay, now it's not just biological, but just like for the simple pleasure of it, then I mean, it's easier, faster, and safer to do it just by masturbation. Like, that's something that's been proven. Like, like, that's just the case. So why is it that we still seek sex when there's self stimulation that can do essentially the same act of pleasure as you know uh, a sexual experience? So it's like there's a desire for um, there's a desire for something more than just something physical. And I think that that's something that it's really interesting to kind of look at. And the rest of not the rest of this, but this next part is, you can find it on Psychology Today, and it'll kind of just speak more about the things that I kind of cross over. But so there's a desire more than just like this physical desire for sex. So it's not just the pleasure, because there are people that are having sex right now, and it's not necessarily something that's done out of pleasure. And like, they don't expect pleasure out of it, they don't want pleasure out of it, and it's just like something that they're just doing. And that's something that's really interesting. And it kind of was difficult for me to kind of wrap my head around this just reading it. But as I started to like think about examples and look at the research, it's very relevant that there are people that are having sex and it's not for that physical pleasure. So some researchers looked at 400 students and kind of eliminated the common answers of, like, for exercise and for pleasure and things like that, and started coming and came down to the answers that were common, but not as common as the rest of the answers. And some of those some of those responses that students gave were to give him an STD, I felt sorry for him, to punish myself, and I lost a bet. And those are just a few. And I think that maybe some of us have been in a situations like, feeling sorry for someone or losing a bet or something. Well, I think that's kind of messed up. You lose a bet, so you have to sleep with someone. So I feel like that's more of like not like a positive experience. I mean, usually you win a bet or something. I don't know. I guess you shouldn't bet on sexual relations and things like that. But anyway, I think that many of us have maybe been in a situation or know people that have been in the situation. I think the first one's kind of fucked up, to give him an STD, because like that, just in my mind, it tells me that like that person didn't already have the STD, so now you're just like trying to give someone, which is just vengeful. Like, for no reason, like not even mad at the person that gave you the STD. You're just like mad at the, that's, I don't know, it's kind of messed up. But anyway, so that's what students were saying. Like there were some students that were stating that these were the reasons that they were having sex. So that means that this wasn't something that was just physical. It was something that was done to some kind of motive behind it. It wasn't like for that pleasure seeking aspect that was previously described in that person centered approach or in that body centered sex style. So why is it still there? There seems to be some kind of need that the pleasure comes from, like not only just like the act of the sex itself, but the presence and the conduct of other people. And the example with this is kind of like sex workers, and you have people that will come to pay money to have a sexual experience with these sex workers. It's purely a business transaction. Now, for the individual that's paying, uh, a lot of times that experience isn't as pleasurable, except when the person is showing like signs of enjoyment. Like it's like the other, like the worker themselves, like they probably have other people that they're working with or other clients that they have, and I that experience may be again in that like previously mentioned state where it's like it's not a physical pleasure that's being had, but that other person, that's that client that's paying for it, wants that experience of it to be pleasurable. So that sound of enjoyment increases the arousal, like biologically increases the arousal within the person, and allows the person to have more pleasure in that experience. And I think that kind of speaks just volumes to this strange biological urge that evolutionists believe that's to be, where it's like if it were strictly for the act of sexual reproduction, then those sounds of pleasure and arousal, those things wouldn't be needed. Like they would be completely unnecessary. And something I think about is with, in the lion kingdom, there a male lion, the penis is actually spiked. Like it's like a spiky penis. So when he actually, has sex with the female lioness, like it's not necessarily a pleasurable experience. And I could be wrong about like what animal this is, but I'm pretty sure it's with lions and big cats. But yeah, so it's not a pleasurable experience, but obviously in that kingdom, in that animal, domain, it's necessary because they're being killed off. They're, like it's they're not running rampant through the worlds like humans are. So that need for um that need for reproduction is not something that's completely necessary, as we see with like the way that we perform sex. It's we perform it outside of this just like barbaric need to just reproduce, and it's something that's more into the nuances of what the sexual experience is. And I think that's kind of speaks to a deeper level of why we have sex in these ways. And there was a sociologist that goes by name, well, his name is Randall Collins, and he kind of stated that like we construct our world in this way that we start creating these complex interaction rituals, and these rituals are basically the way that we interact with kind of everyone. It's like we interact with friends in a certain way, we interact with coworkers, and our parents, and just like all these different ways in which we're interacting with the world. We create this kind of understanding within our own minds that allows us to have a connection between like our physical experiences and our mental and spiritual and all those other experiences that we're having, and kind of creates this like oneness in our understanding of things. So basically this idea of interaction rituals involves like certain key components, and these components include gathering of people in different ways, members being aware of each other, directing attention towards a common interest, sharing emerging emotions, so like things that start coming up for you, and defining clear boundaries between us and them. So you may have someone's like, okay, this is my best friend, and this is my friend, or this is my friend, and these are my friends, and that those are acquaintances, or this is my coworker, and this is my friend and coworker, or whatever it is. But there's always this kind of like differentiation in us and them, and it's not necessarily something that should be a negative thing, like, but oftentimes it's something that can kind of go into that strict boundaries between us and them. But I'm not going to go into that because that's something else. But essentially, he believed that sex is one of these rituals where it's like it's this interaction ritual where we create certain expectations or guidelines within that style, and it follows these same kind of involvement things that I've mentioned before. So people gathering, so it's usually like two people. I mean, more people if you're into that, but usually involves two people, members being aware of each other. Like, I mean, you're not just having sex and it's like, oh wow, I didn't know that you were here, or I just realized you were here. Like members are typically very aware of each other being there in that moment. Directed attention towards a common goal, sex, orgasm, pleasure, sharing emerging emotions, like, I don't know if tears get shed or, like, I love yous get said or whatever it is, but these emotions start coming up, and then defining those clear boundaries between us and them. Us are having sex. They don't need to know that we're having sex. It's a clear boundary that kind of exists there, and I think that makes a lot of sense when we think about just like how we're shaping like our sexual experiences and the ways that we go about having those sexual experiences. I think a lot of times we feel as though there are things that we're supposed to be doing, or ways that we're supposed to be proceeding in the form of like pursuing sex or having sex in certain ways, but just know that like all of those are shaped in the ways that you shape them. So those things that I mentioned before, those commonalities, and I mean obviously like people gathering, that's something that's like very clear, but the other ones are things that are kind of shaped by your own experiences, and they kind of fall into those categories, but like they're just like the basis of that general experience of having sex and what that means. So I mean, some people don't share emotions when they're having sex. I mean, that's not something that always happens, but again, like as you build more relationships and as you build a deeper connection with the person you're having sex with, then things just, you know obviously things just start coming out and things start coming up. So um anyway, the point of all of this is that there is going to be a lot of sex happening during this quarantine, during the coronavirus, and there's going to be a lot of corona babies. I think there's been a lot of talk about that already, but it's it's something that's serious. I mean, like, there's only so much Netflix you can watch. There's only so many things that you can do before you're just like, fuck, like I want to have the sex. And yeah, so sex during the coronavirus, and this is just some things to kind of keep in mind. I think partners, business as usual. If you're living together, it's actually something I found out is that if you're living with people, even if it's just roommates and not like significant relationship or anything, you're kind of considered just like one person, because it's kind of like you can't really avoid what someone else brings in, or um, yeah, if they bring anything else in. So if they get infected, basically you all get infected. So if you're living with somebody and like y'all have been in a relationship, and hey, go for it. Business as usual. If you're willing to take that fall, then go for it. I think there's, yeah. I mean, protect yourself from like getting pregnant if that's something that you're trying to avoid. Keep the virus out and keep the other stuff in. Guys, don't be a dummy. If you know the rest of that, then you know. But anyway, and the rest of everyone else that's not in a relationship, or people that are single or more bohemian in their style of sex and sexual experiences, maybe just kind of chill for now. it's it's not actually proven that there are any ways of transmitting the coronavirus through the act of actual having sex, but again, like, it's transmitted through respiratory droplets. So you know if you have good sex, then you know that there's no way that you can avoid that. So um yeah, there's no evidence that really shows that it can be transmitted through sexual encounters, but there are also apparently no tests that are actually, no data to actually show whether or not it can or can't. So I'm not sure if that's something that we should take into account as well. But uh, yeah, but anyway, that hasn't stopped people in China, because in China apparently condom sales are so high that e-commerce ranked it one of the most popular things being bought as of today. So that's kind of just some positivity. They apparently haven't opened up any new centers to contain the virus because the virus hasn't been spreading. So they've been having sex, and it's apparently still been perfectly fine. So I'm not encouraging you to go out and hook up with your Tinder people, but just to kind of just be courteous of other people. Don't bring into your home, if especially if you share a home with other people, and yeah, just be safe if you don't want to have some more kids. But anyway, do your thing, be safe, and that's all I'm gonna say about sex during the corona. And I guess the last thing I'll kind of just like speak about, and I don't know if I've been speaking really fast or maybe I just didn't speak about enough stuff, but I feel like this is going pretty fast, going pretty smooth. But anyway, the rest of this stuff can be found on healthline.com, and these are just some kind of questions, frequently asked questions. Actually, they're not frequently asked questions. I was going to do some frequently asked questions, but then I realized that people ask some really crazy questions about sex. Like when I searched when I originally searched why do people have sex, or yeah, like why people have sex in Google, it started like suggesting a search, and one of the suggested search was why do sex offenders offend? Like it's I don't know, it's I mean it's just kind of a funny question because it's redundant, and the fact that why do sex offenders offend, but but anyway, that's something like that. But I was gonna do frequently asked questions, but a lot of the questions were kind of like that in nature. So I was kind of like, well, no. So these are just some questions, I guess, more about like the health aspects to encourage sex if you're having it, and kind of just some things about it. So what are the health benefits of sex? And these are like the physical health benefits of sex. It lowers blood pressure, helps to burn calories, increase heart health, strengthens muscles, reduce risk of heart disease, stroke, and hypertension. It increases the libido, obviously, and strengthens the immune system. So all you people trying to stay healthy, have some sex. It apparently can help out, and increase your sleep, better sleep. I know some people are maybe dealing with a lot of kids, don't get their nap during the day, um, or maybe just tired, So have some sex. It can help. It can help. What are the mental health benefits of sex? And that is, some of them include increased satisfaction with mental health. So I mean, I guess that's a given. Um, it increases how we trust. I feel like I set myself up for failure because I wrote this down in just like the worst fucking handwriting, as if okay, yep. Increased levels of trust, intimacy, and love in a relationship. So I was completely wrong with that. It also helps to improve your perceived ability to identify and express emotions, and also it's a confidence booster. Some of the best times that like I've been in shape was when I was like actively having sex, and that's kind of just like maybe it just like did help my mental type of energy, but also like the physical part of burning calories, and maybe that helped too. But yeah, yeah, when I'm not sexually active, I start putting on the weight for sure. Um, but anyway, what are the health benefits of masturbation? And those include enhance sex between partners, which seems counterintuitive, but I guess that makes some sense. Understand your own body, obviously. Increase your ability to orgasm if you have problems with that. Boost self-esteem and body image. Just keep telling yourself you you look good while you're working on yourself. Increase sexual satisfaction. And it can be a treatment for sexual dysfunction. So individuals that have sexual dysfunction, and that's something that like I took a sex education class, and it was kind of just it was a sexuality class, and I was speaking about just sex and sexual identity and all those different things, but about the spectrum of people that have sex, and I didn't realize this. I thought, again, like just that biological side of us, it was like something that was like part of us and things like that, and I didn't realize that there are people that like actually had an aversion towards sex, just like Obviously, like, certain experiences can bring aversions towards sex, or but like just like a baseline, like never been interested, like people that have never been interested in drinking or doing anything else. It's kind of like it's kind of surprising in some way, but also it just shows like the true like kind of dynamics of the world that we live in, where it's like like there are people that are you know having sex all the time and can't stop thinking about sex, and there are people that don't have sex and don't really think about it at all. And I think that's just like this amazing spectrum that we live on. Um but on that other end, where it's like not wanting to have sex, that's perfectly fine. Like if you practice celibacy, like I'm not advocating for you to break that or to go against the things that you believe. And of course there are so many like religions that um and religious and spiritual practices as well that have different views on sex and things. So obviously take it as you feel. And I also don't feel like you'd be listening to this podcast if sex was anything that, I mean, not this podcast, but this episode of the podcast titled sex, if it didn't have some kind of relation to you in some kind of way. And of course there's so much about sex, so you can kind of just research some more things that if I didn't go into some things like how the penis and vagina works and things like that, like that there's a lot of sex education online. But this was more or less just like about like, hey, why we have sex, and what sex is good for. And also like hey, if you don't have sex, that's what I was going with this. But if you don't have sex, if you're practicing abstinence, and that's perfectly fine. There are people that have never had sex that live long and healthy lives. They actually did research, did studies on nuns, looking at like their lifespan and health and stuff like that, because they didn't have sex. And a lot of them lived until their late 90s and past 100 years old, happy, healthy lives. So having sex isn't like indicative of you having good health, or it's not going to be the only thing that allows you to have a long and happy life. So do that. And another question that was listed at the bottom of this Healthline article was is there a thing as having too much sex or masturbation? And the answer to that was more or less that sex is part of our life. It's part of who we are. It's kind of ingrained in who we are. And it's kind of like if you ask somebody, why do they eat or something like that? I mean, it's not necessarily like eating, but it's part of us in that way, where it's like it's just something else. And so it's, if you're having sex every day, then like, yeah, that's perfectly fine. If you're masturbating every day, then like, do your thing. But when it becomes a problem, that's when it's a problem. So if you can't stop thinking about sex, like it's impeding your ability to focus on work, focus with your partner, like just being there, being present in kind of situation. If it's always on your mind, if you feel like it's just impeding on your life because of how excessive it is, then like there are options for help that you can seek out. And you can goodtherapy.org, like I mentioned last episode. And there are different therapists that you can search for whether it's specifically for sexual addictions, or just like anything that you feel that you need to work on. So that's kind of just like a blanket thing, but you can search specific things that you're dealing with, and find therapists that will work with you in those different ways. So have sex, be healthy, be happy, be safe, because although having sex can be good for your health, STDs aren't good for your health. So, there are things that can kill you and harm you and impede on your health if you're not practicing having safe sex practices. So yeah, just keep that all in mind. And yeah, just have fun, be responsible, be healthy, be safe. And I think that's all I'm going to do. I think that's all I'm going to do about sex, because we all know sex, and that's going to be that. So if you want to send in some topics, again, like I'd love to hear some topics, especially in this time when many of us are just inside and not really doing too much, and maybe have extra time to think about things. I think also like this time is a great time to think about things, like I mentioned earlier, maybe start hobbies, do some things that you haven't had time to do before, or just think about the things that you want for yourself. Like there are a lot of times where we're so distracted by work and other obligations and other external things that we don't get the time to really think about the things that we're passionate about, the things that we truly dream about, and things that we really want for ourselves. So take this time to do that. Take this time to, get to know yourself some more, get to know your family some more, like play games like 21 questions type of things. I don't know. It's just like these things that help you to understand yourself and the people that you're in close contact with and the people that you're wanting to be connected with. And yeah, so if you have any topics that come to mind as you're in that thought process, just email them to me or send me a text message or text message rate apply. Yeah, send me an email to everything.sunpodcast@gmail.com. You can join the Facebook group at Everything Under the Sun or at Every Sun Podcast. You can go to Instagram at everything.sunpodcast or Twitter at Every Sun Podcast. And yeah, I think that's a wrap. So be happy, be healthy, stay safe, have plenty of sex if you want to, and don't name your babies COVID. Love you all. See ya.